Sivasanu sir, am I audible? Students, is my screen is visible? Am I audible? Okay, right, fine. Um, Good morning, students. So, welcome to the class module number 14 in the unit of the supply chain network design. The supply chain network design. So, today we are going to see online sales, and the distribution network in practice. Right. So, before entering this class, just we can recap what are the topics, what are the terms we discussed in earlier. So the distribution, right? So we have to achieve supply chain objectives, right? So the only key role to achieve the supply chain objectives is the distribution, right? Then what are the supply chain objectives? Anyone? What are the supply chain objectives? Bharat E. Bharat E, are you there? Just unmute and answer. What are the supply chain objectives? Bharat E, are you there?
Yes, sir. Satisfy the
Ah,
customers.
okay.
Uh,
Um,
uh, Overall profits, sir.
Overall profit you have to improve. Okay, right. Hmm. So how we can satisfy the customers
By giving more than what they require.
or they require, right? So in the simple four terms, right? You have to remember the simple four terms. That is the objective of the supply chain management, right? So you have to deliver a correct product, and correct amount of the product, and the correct place and the correct time, right? So that is the objectives of the supply chain, right? So we have to achieve the supply chain objectives by the distribution, right? So you can know what is the distribution and what are the distribution channels. Then what are the factors that influencing that distribution network design, right? So in that factor we have we concentrating on the two parameters. So one is the customer's experience and second one is the cost, the supply chain cost, right? So what are the value provided to the customers, right? What are the values provided to the customers and what are the cost they meet for the supply chain, right? So depending upon these two, these two, the factors, what are the factors affecting the distribution network that we have seen, right? Then the design options for the network distribution channel, right? So we have a six design configurations that we discussed in last class. Okay, right? Then the comparative performance we discussed in last class. So in this class, we are going to see the online sales and the distribution network in the practice. Right. So online sales is a very important one. Nowadays, we can place an order through in the websites, right? So then we can receive a product, right? So the online sales is a very important one, right? Then how it will affect, then how it will impact the customer services and the supply chain cost, right? So that we can see. Then the online sales impact, how it can be scored, right? So by using the scorecard we are mentioning that impact, the online sales impact, right? So that we can see, right? So before that we can see the online sales impact on the customer services, right? Online sales impact on the customer services, right? So generally what are the service factors right? What are the service factors, right? So response time, product variety, availability, customers experience, time to market, order visibility, and the returnability, right? So these are the customers, the value provided to the customers, right? The value provided to the customers, right? So including these points, we have to include two more points, that is the direct sales to the customers and the flexible pricing, the product portfolio, and the promotions, and the fund transfers, effective the fund transfers, right? So that also included in the customer services, right? So here I didn't mention that one, right? So please note that one, right? So by these points, right? So these points to have to include three more points, right? That is the direct sales to the customers and the flexible pricing and the portfolio and the promotions and the efficient for the fund transfer, right? So first we can see the customer services, right? So how the online sales impact the customer services, right? So the first one is the response time, right? So how the response time to the customers will be there in the online sales, right? So in this online sales, we have two types of two categories of the products, right? So one is the physical product, and one more is the product will be in the digital form. Either it may be a software, movies, and musics, and then ebooks, right? So in the online sales, it is in digital form. The customer is very happy, right? So the response time is very quick, right? So instantly they can download the software. Instantly they download the movies, ebooks, musics, right? So whatever may be the product in the digital form, right? So they can download in instantaneously, right? So the response time is very quick while comparing to the physical product, right? So if it is in some physical product means they have to place an order and they have to wait some time. Why? Because the product has to ship from one place to our place, that is the customer's place, right? So the shipping is involved, right? So the response time for the physical product is somewhat high while comparing to the digital format products, right? So if it is in digital format products, we can get a product, the response time will be uh, very quick, right? So depending upon our internet speed, we can get in a quicker manner, right? So that is the response time regarding the customer services in the online sale. Then the variety of the product, if the company is selling in the online sales, it is easier to offer a large selection of the products while comparing to the retail stores, right? So while comparing to the retail stores, in the online we have variety, plenty of products, plenty of variety of products will be available, right? Then uh, here in the product variety in the terms of the retail store means they require the huge amount of facility, and almost they have a large amount of inventories too, right? So for the retail stores, but in the online stores it is not there, right? So the inventory and the facility will be somewhat less while comparing to the digital format products. Then the product availability, by aggregating its inventory, a company is trying to sell the product in the online. It improves the product availability. And the better information on the customer preference also allows to firms selling the online products to improve its availability. Then the customer's experience, right? So you may feel this customer's experience in the term of the online sales, right? So if we are going to buy a product in a retail store, right? So at what time we can purchase the product? It is in the business hours, right? So for example, morning 6 to evening 9, the shop will be open, right? So at that time only we can place an order. At the time only we can purchase a product. But in online, it's not like that, right? So as per our convenient, whatever may be the time, we can place an order, right? Right? So that convenience will be there in the online shopping, right? So the online site affects the customer's experience in the term of the access, accommodations, and the convenience, right? So the retail stores will be open during the business hours only, but the internet, the internet online sales, they allow the customers to place an order at any convenient time, right? Then um, the online shopping, that the online shopping offers the opportunity to create the personalized buying experience, that is the reviews, right? So if you are going to see a product in a online, right, so the each buyer, right, they can have to rights to give their reviews, right? So we can see the reviews, right? We can see the reviews and how the product will be sell to how many customers, right? The number of customers they purchase that product, then they can review their product, right? So depending upon these feedbacks, we can analyze the product and we can buy the product, right? So that facility will be available in the online sales. Then the time to market, right? So what is the time to market, right? How quick it reaches the customers, right? How quick a new launched product will reaches the customers, right? So if a company can introduce a new product, right, so much more quickly the online as compared to the physical channels, right? So if it is in physical channels, it may get somewhat slower manner to reach the customers, but in the online, right, so in the online they can reach the customers in very fast manner. Then the order visibility, the online shopping makes it is possible to provide the visibility of an order status, right? But in the retail stores, the order status visibility is somewhat difficult. But in the online sales, we can see our order status and where the product will be there in the transient supply chain, right? So that visibility terms will be good in the online sales, right? Then the returnability, right? So while comparing to the retail stores, the returnability it's somewhat harder than the retail stores, right? So in the online sales, the returnability is somewhat difficult, right? So it typically arrives from the centralized location, and it is much easier to return the product purchased at the retail stores, right? So the difficulty in the returnability in the online stores means we can take some time, right? So then only we can get a proper way to return the product, right? So these are the customer services impact on the online sale, right? So including these factor, we added three major terms, right? So one is the direct sale to the customers, right? So you can see in a Facebook and Twitter, you can see the Facebook and the Twitter and other social networking medias, right? And other social networking term channels, right? So most of advertisements are coming now, right? So most of the advertisements coming nowadays, right? In the Facebook itself, right? So we are selling the sarees, we can selling the old books, right? So like that, the many ads will be coming, right? So that is called the direct sellings. That is called the direct sellings to the customers, right? So without any dealers, without any without any dealers and without any distributors, the direct sellers, the sellers will sell their product to the customers through a social media, right? Social networking like a Facebook or a Twitter, right? So like that, many channels are there, right? So that is called the direct sales to the customers, right? So you can see the many more advertisement in your Facebook itself, right? Is it right? Have you seen that type of advertisements in your Facebook account? Have you seen or not? Anyone? So since not clear, I think. Then the flexible pricing and the portfolio and for the promotions, right? So changing the prices on the assortment online sales, the internet allows a company to sell a product in a manageable revenues from the available product portfolio, and it is much more effective than the traditional or a retail shops, right? So the promotion informations can be conveyed to the customers quickly and inexpensively using the internet, as long as the business has the access to its customers network, right? Then the effective fund transfer. Next one is the sorry effective fund transfer, right? So we can transfer the fund, the price of the particular product in the internet or in our mobile phone. It can be enhanced to convenience, right? So either we can pay the amount by the GPay, PayPal, credit card, debit card, right? So whatever may be the term, right? So the convenience has to be enhanced in the internet, the online shopping and our mobile phone app itself, right? So the low cost of revenue collection, especially for a small amounts, right? So that also the easy one in the online shopping. Then uh, then the other term, the supply chain network cost, right? Then the second one is the impact on the sales, on the costers, right? So what are the cost, right? So inventory cost is there, transportation cost, facility and handling, and the information cost is also there, right? So that we can see, right? In the inventory, right? So for the online sales, the inventory cost will be somewhat low, right? The inventory cost is low level by the aggregating the inventories far from the customers, right? Far from the customers. So if the customers are willing to wait for a delivery also, right? Willing to wait for a delivery also, right? So for example, if you are placing the book, if you are placing the book in amazon.com, right? Amazon website, right? So the customer has to wait, a customer are willing to wait for the delivery, right? But in a nearby the retail store, we can get a product in easier manner, but the inventory cost, in the retail shop is somewhat high. But in the amazon.com, the inventory cost is, while comparing to the retail store, it's very low, right? So most of the online stores, they have a warehouse or a facilities in a particular place, right? So the facility cost and the inventory cost is somewhat less while comparing to the retail stores. Then the facilities, they have two type of facilities, right? In the online shopping, they have two type of facilities, um, which is analyzed by the customers and the manufacturer, right? So the first one is the customer related to the number of facilities and the number of locations, right? So if the number of facilities increases and the number of locations will be increases, automatically what will happen? The cost investment is high, right? Then the second one is the cost associated with the operation that takes place of these facilities, that is a maintenance, right? So the if the facilities are uh, the facility infrastructure will be built in a particular place, right? So we have to maintain also, right? So we have to maintain the facility also, we have to maintain the information structures also, right? So the cost terms, it will be increases, right? Cost term, it will be somewhat increases. Then the transportation also is significantly lowered while comparing to the other distribution centers, right? So if you are taking a physical product, it may take some transportation cost, but uh, the product will be in the form of digital, right? There is no transportation cost itself, right? If you can buy a ebooks or a music, right? So the transportation cost here is nil, right? So we can easily download the softwares, musics or ebooks, right? So whatever may be in the digital form, we can easily download, right? So there the transportation cost will be a nil one, right? but the physical products, means it may take some time. It may comes from the distributor center to the our customer's hand, so it may have some transportation, right? So there the transportation will be increases. In particular product, they have to meet the customers, uh, they have to meet the transportation charge, right? On the time they mentioning that the shipping charge will be in a different place, right? They have to mention the shipping charges also, including the, and some particular products they're giving the shipping charge will be free, right? So if you are purchase a product above 500 rupees, right? So on that condition the shipping charge will be free, right? But if you are purchasing a product below the 500 rupees, they charge the shipping charges, right? So they have to meet the transportation charges, right? So in the online sales we have to see the transportation charge for digital format products and the physical product formats, right? Then the informations, the information in the online seller can share the demand information throughout its supply chain to improve its visibility. And the internet may also use to share the planning and the forecasting of the information within the supply chain for the further improving and its coordination, right? So this type of information will helps to reduce the overall supply chain cost, and it is much better to meet to match the customer's supply and the demand, right? So the infrastructure has a major role. The information infrastructure has a major role in the online shopping, right? So these are the cost factors and the customers factors, right? These are the cost factor and the service factor will impact the online sales in a distribution network. Then, so what are maybe the online sales, right? So the impact has to be noted in a particular format, right? So that particular format will be in the term of the keywords, the term of the keywords, right? So what are the keywords means? We have to mention the +2, +1, 0, -1 and -2, right? So here the +2 will indicate it's very suitable, right? So in a particular product, right, we have to take the particular product in the online sales, right? So we have to indicate the +2 mark when means it's very suitable, and for the neutral it will be 0, and -2 it's very unsuitable, but for -1 it is somewhat unsuitable, right? So by this uh, by this format we can identify whether the product impact on the online sales or not, right? So it is called the scorecard. It is called the scorecard of the online sales, right? So here you can see the examples, right? So if you are selling the computers, we are selling the computers or a hardware parts or a standard laptops at the particular company, right? So here I take an example for a Dell, right? So here what are the service factors are there and what are the cost factors are there, right? So to this up to this it is the service factors, right? These are all the service factors and these are all the cost factor, right? So how it can be very suitable, or how it will be impact on the online sales, right? So that we have to see, right? So by this categorized impact we can analyze whether it is suitable in the online sales or not, right? Then how much it is suitable for the online sales, and while comparing to the retail stores, right? So how it will how its response time will be there, and how the product variety availability in the customer's point of view, in the customer's service factor. Then the supply chain costs also, right? So where the supply chain cost will be more, and what type of product will have a more supply chain cost, and what type of product will get in a lower cost, right? So that will be analyzed by these scorecards, right? So here see we can see the differences, right? So in the same online shopping, we have to purchase a physical product and the e-format product, right? So which one is impact more, right? So that will be shown here, right? So for the response time, if it is in physical product, the response time for the e-books is very quick, and the response time for uh, the physical product, right, it may take some transportation, right? You have to ship from the manufacturer's end to the customer's end, so it may take them some time, right? So the shipment will be involved here, right? So the response time will be somewhat less while comparing to the this one, right? So here also you can see, if the internet facility is good in our hand, right, so then we can get a +2 value here, right? So depending upon the internet speeds of our facility, the response time will be vary, right? So we can mention here a +1, right? So if internet facility is very good, right, then we can indicate as a +2, right? So here, how we can identify whether the product is suitable or not means, then here we have to summarize these numbers. Then we have to get a value whether in the positive manner or in the negative manner, right? Then here also same, we have to summarize, right? So for the service factor, we have to summarize, right? So which one the value is good, right? That only preferable in a online shopping or a retail shopping, right? That will be indicates whether it is suitable for online or whether it is suitable for the retail stores, right? So as well as the same, the cost factors also, right? At the cost factors also we can get that product, right? So here you can see the performance of the Netflix, right? So nowadays the Netflix, all you may know, right? So what is the Amazon Prime Store, and what about the next Netflix, right? We can see the movies, programs, right? Whatever may be in the Hotstar, Netflix, we can see, right? So how it will be impact, right? Impact to the either in the DVD format or in the digital format, right? So which one is a preferable one, right? Like that, we compared the online sales impact in the customer service as well as the cost factors. Then the distribution network in the practices, right? Always we are going to analyze in a theoretical manner, means it's somewhat difficult results we can get, and for in a in a practical manner we can get a different type of analysis report, right? So the distribution network, while designing a distribution network, we have to consider some terms, right? So what are the terms we have to consider means these terms, right? So one is the ownership structure, right? So second one is the adaptable, right? So how it is important to adaptable, and the price critical effects and accommodations, and the integrations, it's very important, integration with the physical product, existing physical product, and to the online sales, right? So just we can see one by one, right? So in the ownership structure in the distribution network has a big impact, right? Has a big impact on a different type of networks, right? Different type of the distribution network, right? So what is the ownership structure, right? What is the ownership structure, right? So whatever may be the supply chain network, they have to supply a product. So they have to supply a product, right? That is a physical flow, right? The physical, they have a physical network, different type of physical networks, and the subsequent flow to the distribute the product is successfully, right? So in the term here, the important is who is owning the stages, or distribution channels in the distribution networks, right? So the distribution network have exactly the same physical flow, but the different owners will be there for each distribution channels, means their performance will be in different, right? So their performance may have a different performance, right? So for example, if the manufacturer, right, if the manufacturer own the distribution network, means he can easily control the network actions. He can easily control the network actions, but the manufacturer doesn't have ownership of the network, doesn't have the distribution network. Means is more often he can get the variety of issues, right? It A variety of issues will be arising, right? So that will be taken into account to optimize, to overcome the network design, right? So while designing the network distribution, we have to consider whether the physical flow of the product will be in the ownership of the structure or not, right? So if the company owns means we can get good network actions, right? So if it is in different customers means surely the performance will be varying. Surely the performance will be varying, right? So anyway, the manufacturer, it's not possible to own all the distribution channels, right? So some distribution channels will be owned by the different kind of peoples, right? So and independent distributors want to optimize the own center, that is the enterprises, which is not necessary to analyze the entire supply chain, right? So they have to analyze their enterprise. They have to analyze their enterprises. They have to optimize their enterprises. Then only the performance will be improved. Their performance will be meet the customers' need, right? So the ownership structure is very, very important, right? So while designing, we have to consider this term, right? So while designing, we have to consider the impact of the product flow and the ownership structure is very, very important, right? So in the term of the paperwork, we can easily identify what are the problems like that we are telling, but in practical, it's very, very difficult, right? So we can get many more issues on the distribution channels, right? Then the second one, right? Second one is the important to have the adaptable distribution networks, right? In the adaptable distribution networks, right? So in the distribution network must be able to adapt to changing the technologies and the environments, right? The changing the technologies and the environments, right? So an inability to adapt is very bad or very damaging one uh, for the rapid changes, right? So for the rapid changes, the inability to adapt means is very dangerous one, right? So it will affect the entire supply chain cost, right? It affects the entire supply chain cost and entire design of the distribution network, right? So we have to adapt, right? We have to adapt for the changes, right? We always ready to adapt the changes, right? What are the changes in the technologies and the environments, right? So by these factors, we always ready to adapt the new design structure, right? We have to always ready to adapt the design structures, right? That is the important one. Then the product prices and commoditations and the critical, right? So critical products sometimes the critically affects the products of the distribution network system preferred by the customers, right? The interactions, right? So here the interactions between the buyers and the sellers can take the time and some resources, right? So as a result, it is much more convenient, right? As a result, it is much more convenient for the buyers to deal a single enterprises that can deliver a full line product, right? That can deliver the full line product for a high demand or high value products or a specialized products or a critical product, right? So the customers are willing to have a relationship solely around the particular product, right? The customer have to very good willingness to have a relationship with a particular product sellers, a particular productor, right? Then for the low values, the commodity products like the office files or office supplies. For example, we have to purchase the office stationery items, pen, pencils, or staplers, whatever it may be, right? So nearby shop they can purchase, right? The customer prefer the nearby shop, right? So it is the difference between the types of distribution preferred by the customers, right? So for example, the Apple product, right? So how the Apple seller, the Apple company will get successful means they have to sell their Apple products in the stores, the Apple stores. The Apple stores only they sold the Apple products, but it is unlikely the stationary items. But it is unlikely stationary items. The manufacturer would succeed without the distributing through the general stationary stores, right? So this is a main one. Then the integration between the network, that is the online shell, right? Integration, the integrate the internet facility and the existing physical physical product flow, right? To extract the maximum benefit, to extract the maximum benefit from the online channel for the physical products or a goods, it should be integrate with their existing network. It should be integrate with the existing network in the supply chain, right? So by integrating the physical flow in the internet, it will get a hybrid distribution network. It will get a hybrid distribution network. So the product sale will be somewhat good, right? The product sale will be somewhat good. So it is also referred as the click and the mortar, right? Clicking and the mortar, right? You may remember the integration of the internet, that is the online sale, with the existing physical products in the normal distribution network, right? It is referred as the the mortar clicks and the mortar, right? So while designing while designing the distribution network, we have to see these four. We have to see these four for the distribution network in practice. In practice, we have to see these four, right? Okay. So up to this, we can stop here. The remaining term will be discussed. We'll discuss in next class, right? So up to this class, we can see the first phase of the supply chain network design, right? First phase of the network design, right? Then the next class onwards, we can see the network, the role of the networks, and here we have some designs on the networks. Do you have any clarifications? Do you have any clarification in the particular class, in this class?